Hello and welcome to the Tiffness Fitness Podcast. My name is Tiffany, and this week's guest is the wonderful Dan Pereyo. He is my personal bent press mentor, who gets all of my complaints about how terrible my workouts are. And we do a super deep dive on bent pressing and a couple of other things, but mostly we just really talk about bent pressing. You can find him on Instagram at Dan Pereyo. We'll have his socials linked in the show notes, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
And also, there's lots of cool things that I don't know. I know a lot about kettlebells. I don't know a lot about barbells and all the weird lifts that come along with that.
Well, the old school lifts, because modern take on the barbell, it's just like powerlifting or Olympic lifting, right?
I can't even do lifting, so
you need a good coach. That's the one thing that there's a lot that drives me nuts about CrossFit. You could do a whole episode, like a 3-hour episode of me ranting about CrossFit. And I would fill all 3 hours, and there would be a theme that ran throughout it. There'd be sections. It's built in my head in a very systematic way. And one of the many things that drives me nuts about it is using Olympic lifts for Metcons, using barbell snatches as like a Metcon, like a 10-minute Metcon. What the fuck's wrong with you? The barbell snatch is one of the most highly technical lifts that exists. Mm-hmm. Like the top Olympic lifters, a lot of them will say they're not any good at the lifts for the first 10 years of their career. Because of they're placing and they're winning things and they're setting world records, but they still don't feel comfortable with their lifts. Like Maddie Rogers, right? The future of American Olympic lifting. I am such a fan of hers. And I'd watch her video, with her posts, and she would say, "Oh, that was the worst snatch ever," and she's snatching like the modern American female record. But she'd sit there and nitpick it, and that was like 4 years ago. Now she's like, okay, these are starting to look clean. Like she's feeling good about like her snatches or her jerks. It's like there's such technical lifts that need such intense coaching that having Joe Public come in off the street and do 95-pound barbell snatches for time in a Metcon is just, it's like, I can't face palm enough.
Yeah, it feels dangerous because anybody can do these things if they take the time, put the effort, and get appropriate feedback. But in those classes also, they tend to be larger scale classes. So even if the coach is awesome, they're not going to be able to give everyone the feedback that they need. And if they're coming in off the street and they're beginner, they aren't going to know how to scale or that they should scale. Because I know that that's a thing with CrossFit, that they scale things and whatever and have modifications. But if you see everyone around you doing the barbell version, you're like, well, I don't want to not be doing the barbell version. And so they're going to do it anyways. And then they're not probably going to do it right for a while.
That's my issue with large group classes, period. If you're going to do large group fitness classes, you can't make the movements complicated in any way, shape, or form. It's got to be the most simple, the most basic movements that everybody in the class can do. Mm-hmm. You have to go lowest common denominator in those scenarios. Yeah. That's why I think stop with the barbell stuff, and kettlebells would be a such better fit for CrossFit, even though they bastardize and they destroy kettlebell technique.
That's a video that's going around right now of their long cycle at the CrossFit Games.
Oh God, they did that?
I mean, it's a clean and jerk. But here's the thing. When
their wrists were like this.
They're back here on their shoulders. And then they're just yeah, it's not good. But here's the thing, CrossFit athletes can do that. They can get away with it because they're athletes. They have training regimens. They're strong as fuck. They're athletes. They can do whatever the fuck they want. I don't give a shit. That's fine. My concern with it is that people are going to try to mirror that technique because they're all influencers also. Whether or not they want to be, but they are, because they're top level athletes performing in the huge CrossFit games. So people are going to see that. They are going to copy that technique, which is not safe. I mean, it's fine for them, but for the average person, that is going to harm them. And that's my main issue, is that people are going to see that, and they're going to mirror that technique, and it's not going to go well. And then they're going to say kettlebells are the problem. Kettlebells aren't the problem. That's my concern.
It's your shitty coaching. Yeah, like I actually like watching the CrossFit games, like the actual games, because you're seeing the best. And I like seeing the best of the best do what they do. Right. I hate a lot of stuff I see there. Like when they're doing the overhead lunge thing, for a time is when they're on the grid and they've got 2 kettlebells above, but their wrists are broken
back.
And they're way back. And like your wrists are killing you. Your wrists are killing you. That is so dumb.
And like, I couldn't do it. Like, I know, like, all the things, like, I can't do all, and you can't be the best at everything. So it just needs to be narrowed a little bit, and then it could be great. Because the first thing I worked at, my first gym I worked at was a CrossFit gym. I mean, I wasn't teaching CrossFit. I was teaching a kettlebell class at a CrossFit gym because he had a time slot, and I was the only person who did kettlebells in Oakhurst. So he was like, hey, you can have 30 minutes on Saturday mornings and Wednesday mornings or whatever, and that's great. But it was a lot of teaching the basic parts of it. But there's just so many things in those WODs, in the Metcon, like in their whatever, that it makes it, you can't do it all. You can't be good at everything.
You can't be good at everything. And the person coming off the street, the person who sees like the CrossFit games or sees, Matt Frazier on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, doing something completely badass. Ooh, I want to do that. They're coming into the box. I'm just going to call it a gym. And this person has, let's just call them a 35-year-old adult male, right? Who maybe played some sports in their life. Let's just try to get just for sake of argument. That person has a lifetime of accumulated like injuries and imbalances and weaknesses that throwing them into like intense, high intensity training is a recipe for absolute disaster. Absolute disaster, because that person again has like muscle imbalances, muscle weaknesses, probably has gluteal amnesia, has been sitting at a desk for 15 years doing a job, right? Can't activate their glutes. We could just start naming, like their shoulders are probably an absolute mess. They can't probably do this with their shoulders
they don't
at
have
all.
Mobility or anything. And also, most 35-year-old men don't have any fucking mobility. It's a thing.
Let's see. How old was I when I started down this path? I'm 45 now. I was 2012-ish. We'll call it 2012.
Was that 11 years ago?
Yeah, 11 years ago. And that means I was 34. And I was that 34-year-old. Been sitting. I played sports throughout my life. I was in reasonable shape, but I started easy. I started doing the standard, because I'd lifted before. I was an athlete my entire childhood through college. I played golf on my college team, so I was that. And then I played some things like disc golf throughout. So I was always active. And I'd been a gym rat before, but when I started going to the gym at 34 years old, I had no clue what I was doing, no help. And I was just doing your standard bodybuilding bro splits.
Yeah.
Right. And I had a buddy of mine, he was doing the same kind of things. He got me into some high intensity interval training, which was fun because you get a sweat going and you feel like you did something.
You sweat, and you get those endorphins from it's a lot of fun. But that's what it is. It's fun.
It's fun. Well, it's like the way my buddy Ridge is I think it's my coach said, that's just hamster wheel shit. It's just hamster wheel. Just get in a hamster wheel. You'll get the same effect. But the way I got into kettlebells, right? Because there's no bench press without kettlebells for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know about it without kettlebells. So my gym had them. I never thought they were anything. An old coach there was trying to get me to use them, and I laughed. I was like, yeah, those little balls of iron, whatever the fuck. And then one point when I was on that high intensity interval training that hit bandwagon and kettlebell swings were a part of it. So I started doing swings. I had no idea what those swings looked like. I doubt they were any good. But I was doing swings as part of the Metcon. And then I started watching a couple of videos here and there about kettlebells, and I learned how to clean out of nowhere. Like standard, like hardstyle clean. Like, because I saw a guy, like I was just picking them up and racking them. And I'm sure my wrists were like this too. Like I'll guarantee you, my wrists were like this. But I watched
That's
this.
how it starts though.
Yeah, no, true. And this Australian RKC guy, Grant Lofthouse, he had some YouTube stuff. And he was just doing a standard, he was just demonstrating like a 15-minute, very classic hard style 15-minute training session you can do. I'm like, oh, yay, great, it's quick, easy. And he just grabbed 216s and just clean them up and then press them. I'm like, oh, that's how you do that?
Cool. Yeah.
So I tried it the next time. I hiked him underneath and I brought him. I'm like, oh, I doubt I did them well. But I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Yeah. Wait, hold on. This is how I was doing. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, you gotta. And probably like a little bit farther out than they need to be.
Because you're shoulder pressing. You're doing it from here. You're not coming from here. You got to do the shoulder press.
Yeah.
And then at my gym, sorry, you can see if I lean back. At my gym, there was a coach there who wasn't an SFG, wasn't an RKC, but he'd had some training, like some actual good training in hardstyle kettlebell technique. And then he kind of came up to, we kind of knew each other. He came up to me. He goes, hey, you seem to be getting into these kettlebells. I said, yeah, I have no clue what I'm doing. Can you help? Should I hire you? He goes, don't hire me. I don't know anything either. I just know enough to know I don't know anything. I'm like, okay, but let me teach you. I was trying snatches. And he was like, let me teach you what I know about snatches. And then all of a sudden I was snatching decently. Mm-hmm. But he goes, just go to the Strong First website, go to their forum, start reading. And then I found Strong First. Mm-hmm. And then, as they say, the rest is history in terms of, I found some people to work with. I was drilling hard on technique. I was reaching out to people. I was talking to people, trying to get better. I actually went to a Strong First user course.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, taught by a local senior SFG. And that's that's when I started posting stuff on Instagram. That's how you and I eventually found each other, mm-hmm. me doing the hardstyle stuff. But from there came the bent press. And I actually found the bent press really early, but I didn't start doing it for couple of years, 2-3 years. When I was starting to get some decent technique, we're not going to call it great technique, but very decent. I was scouring the interwebs looking for workouts I could do. This is before I really got into I started following programs, like buying mm-hmm. Simple and Sinister, buying Rite of Passage, Enter the Kettlebell, the Rite of Passage program, started doing those. But before that, and I found Ollie Quinn.
Okay.
You know who he is, right? The Irish guy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so this is when he was still living in Ireland, outside of Galway before he moved to Texas with his wife. And he posted this complex, and I actually did it once on Instagram he calls it Sign of the Beast 666. It's a swing, a clean, a push press, a jerk, and then a bent press. And I'd never seen a bent press before. And I watched him bent press, and he was doing it with a 48.
God damn.
He's also a motherfucking mutant. Let's be clear. That guy is a 5'10" mutant.
It's always just really annoying to see guys bent pressing like my max. I'm always like, God damn it. Like I just want, like you just have such a just an advantage. And I'm like, damn, I want that so bad. And also just having access to a 48 kilo bell would be real nice.
Yeah, I have one. I made a point of buying one. But I went to the gym the next day and I tried to bent press and nothing was moving.
Yeah.
I thought I was side racking. I wasn't. I thought it was just from the side here, not all the way around. And I was trying and nothing. nothing was happening. I'm like, like, I don't know. So I stopped. And then what happened was I was talking with Levi Marquardt. We'd become kind of like texting buddies. He tried to help me a little bit, but I needed to hire him, which was fine. I'm all about willing to hire and pay somebody for their time. It just never worked out. But then my wife was doing a conference in Austin, Texas, where Ollie Quinn had moved to.
Oh, cool.
And so I had to go because we had a newborn. We needed both of us around. So I went with her to Austin, and I reached out to Ollie and said, hey, I'm coming to Austin for a few days. Wife, I can have some time. I would love to learn the bent press from you. And he was like, sounds great. This is what I charge, reasonable. Like I was expecting like $150, like 75. I'm like, oh, that's reasonable. And then I took the rental car and I went out to his house just outside of Austin. And I was working on a deadlift thing because I was prepping for a tactical strength challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so in his garage, I hit a 395-pound deadlift for 3. So he let me do that work up to that 395 pull. And then we did bent press work. He took me through the progressions, the mobility. He goes, it's a mobility lift as much as it's a strength lift. Mm-hmm. He goes, you really can't access what the lift gives you until you have the mobility and you're doing it heavy enough. And you and I have both learned that through our own
over and over again.
Yeah. Like it's like I feel like you're just playing with the bent press until for the individual, it gets heavy for you. Because then it's a whole different lift. Instead of trying to work on the hinging or whatever your style is, whether you do the hybrid or you do the squat style, all of a sudden it's like, it's not going up unless I do these things. Mm-hmm. Right? Instead of just like, I feel like, let's say your potential, let's just say like standard guy, let's say his 1 rep max could be the 32, but he's doing lots of reps with the 20 and the 24. He's not really feeling the lift yet.
Yeah.
Maybe doing the lift, maybe the technique looks pretty good, but like you and I both know, any heavy bent presser, I feel like knows this in their soul. Once it gets really heavy, it's like, oh shit, it got real. This is real now. This is what they're talking about. Like, I think the first time that happened to me was with like a 40.
Yeah.
And like first time, like I'd worked up to it, like, okay, I'm going to nail this 40. All of a sudden, oh my God, this is different. It just felt like
you get that in that rack position and you're like, okay, well now I'm in. Like you get that, like you feel like that lock in when you get in like that back pocket. You're like, oh, here it is. And but it's really nice because that's when you start to like be able to find what you work on, and like how you can be better. Because I think I basically know whether or not I'm going to get it once I get here. Once I get into that like back pocket position where I'm like locked in. I think from there, if I get it there, I know whether or not it's going to actually go up, and if I'm going to be able to make it, because there's just like a certain amount of tension that you feel, and like there's just like a lot of like moving pieces in there. And if I get it locked in, and I can know in that point whether or not it's going to go over my head and great, or if it's going to go over my head like this where I'm dropping it in front of me if it's a barbell. Which happens all the time. Well, it was when I was doing that other program, less often now because I'm working significantly lighter at this point, but I'm working significantly lighter in weird positions, which makes it still heavy.
Yes, that's the whole idea. You're trying to find those weakest with conjugate. You're trying to find those weakest positions. You want that because then you work the shit out of those weak positions to make them strong. And the whole theory is it moves your main lift up. Like you could not touch like your upper percentages of your bent press with a kettlebell or a barbell for months, right? You'll be spending so much time and much lower percentages with the different awkward, like all the different variations. And then all of a sudden you go up and all of a sudden that 85%, let's say, like, what's your 85%? Is that more or less 85 pounds? Or is that like 90?
42 kilos or 43? I don't know. I don't remember. It's in my notebook. I don't remember any of my numbers. I have it written down so I don't have to think.
So like 93, 95 pounds is your 85%, right? That should be like anytime you show up, that should be your
I was
3
right.
rep
It
max.
is 42 and a half. I said 42, 43. So it's 93. 93 is my 85%.
Like you should have that for a 3 anytime you want, right? But
Yeah, I
like in
haven't done
theory,
it in a minute though.
yeah, but you know, if you're 85%, you should be able to do a 3 basically anytime you want. I love 3s. I love 85%. I love 3s. I do that all day because it's perfect. It's heavy enough to feel something, but you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My coach was
it's a good number. And it feels strong, but you're still like you get that like good fatigue at the end of it.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, there it is.
Well, my coach says every lifter of a certain level loves their 85% day. It's their favorite day, and leave any lifter, whether it's a power lifter, Oli lifter, or us kind of kettlebell people, or bench press nerds, I guess is the best way to put it, is that 85%, 3 sets of 3 day is like the best day of the month or the best day of the cycle. But what he says is actually the most gains are made between 65 and 85%. You have to spend most of your time. 85 is the top end of what you do. 65 and everywhere in between is where that's where like the gains happen. And you only hit above 85% every once in a while. And that's kind of what you're doing with this conjugate program. But if we want to get back to like how I move forward with the bench press to get where I've gotten. Yeah. So Ollie taught it to me, and I think that day I hit the 24, and I thought it was just hard.
Yeah, it is.
It was just hard because getting into the position, what it is getting into position and then learning how to move out of that position. For me, it's a hip drive, right? Or pushing like the loaded glute. My cue, like now, if I'm racking and I'm ready to go, is once I'm racked, I just squeeze that glute and go. Like I just start pushing that hip out. And everything starts happening.
Yeah.
That's my cue. Like everybody's got their own cue, right? That's my cue. But when I first started, it was hard, and I was doing the whole strong first thing of just rotating and then doing it.
Yeah.
No, just get into fucking position. Like that. Like that's just pretty stuff.
Need to do.
But I was doing that, and like you're supposed to rotate as you do it, and that was just really frustrating. And I remember
when I learned it, I learned the step forward. That's how I was when I saw it, when I first started doing it, and people got very upset about my stomp, which I don't do very much anymore because I wear the barbell out there. Once I'm in a spot, I'm not fucking stepping. But when I first started that, like you can see in my like very first video I have me bench pressing, to get in position, I took a step forward. Just got stompier as the weights got heavier because I was trying to create more tension.
Sure.
And yeah, I never liked this like full rotational back. I feel like I lost a lot of my power rotating that far back, because I'm a really strong like windmill type person, and so when I get into this position, I drop like I'm gonna do into a windmill essentially, and then I windmill up, and then it's good. Like
right.
Like and then once if I lock out, I'm standing up. Like I know for sure that if I'm here at the bottom, I can get up no matter what, because I have that hinge, I have those obliques, the glutes, hamstrings to get me in that position. And what Peter Neiman said he'll be a couple episodes before you, he said that like everyone's bench press is like a fingerprint, like it's a little bit individual, like they're all similar but they're all individual based on like our bodies and our strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's like a really good accurate way of saying it, because my bench press looks different than his, and it should, and yours, because we're built differently.
Completely different. We all kind of do them in a similar
like Beth or whatever, because like I don't know if you know Beth Sorecki, but hers is she's
I know
she is a woman who does bench presses. She'll be the next episode. But she I just have all the bench pressers on this little section. It's great. But like hers and mine, even though we're both similarly built women, are different styles of bench pressing, or slightly different techniques based on our strengths and weaknesses, because she's like an Olympic lifter, so her
Right.
strengths are different than mine, and that's cool. That's part of
No,
why I fucking love the lift, because it's so specific and individual, and you can find what works for you if you've got the prerequisites.
And our overlord of the bench press, Dave Whitley,
Yeah.
what he, I think when he first started, like with his book and when he was doing workshops at the bench press, I think he was like, had one way he wanted people to do it. But I think what he's come to over the years, because he said this to me and he said this to you, is that you found your groove.
Yeah.
Like there's a groove that works for you. Like I'm awkwardly built. I'm like tall 6'1", short 6'2". Yes, I make that distinction. But it's weird. I'm weirdly tall because I have this really long torso. If my legs matched my torso, I'd be 6'3", 6'4". If my torso matched my legs, I'd be 5'10", 5'11". The weird thing is all the men on my mom's side of the family are 5'9"-ish, maybe 5'10", with short, stocky legs. So I have their lower half. I've like shorter, like they're not short legs, they're just short in relation. And they're thicker. Like people always comment on my calves. Like I think I have bodybuilder calves and I don't train my calves. But then I have my dad's side of the family of being taller and long torsoed. So, and I have decently long arms, but not quite. So for me, when I bench press, I run into an issue of once my lockout's kind of done, but let's say it's over here, it's not here yet. I have to go deeper into what that guy Strongman Archaeology calls your landing strip or your landing zone or whatever, when you're all the way down here. But there's a point I can't go any further. My body just can't move. It's not a mobility thing. Like I just ran out of room. So you'll notice on some of my heavier lifts, you look back, or I'll look later and I'll send it to you and say, see, this is what I'm talking about. I will do this weird thing with my hips because I've run out of room, but I can still lock it out. I can still do the lift. I'm not pressing it out. I am peeling away from it, where I just push my hips out more. But my, like you see like the front leg, not the back loaded leg. This front leg will do a thing with the hip where I'm pushing it out even more, and then it gets me there, and then I can stand up. It's just because I'm built awkwardly. Pete seems like he's a pretty proportional human, and he's not short, but he's not very like he's like what 5'10", 6 feet.
I don't know off the top of my head. I guess I'll know in a few weeks when I meet him. I'll let you know because I'm meeting him at Bellfest in a few weeks, and we're gonna bench press some shit.
His journey's been cool. I'm looking forward to his episode just to listen to him talk about it, because his bench press to body weight is obscene. Like he's up there. But so I started bench pressing in earnest. Like once I kind of like got a handle on it, I programmed it myself. I just did a triple progression, reps, then sets, then changed the load, right? Working up to, because it was the bench press, I kept it to work up to 3 sets of 5. And I had access to all the bells. So I started with like the 32, because early on I realized I could bench press the 32. So I started with the 32, got to 3 sets of 5. And then I got to the 36, 3 sets of 5. And then once I think I did the 40, and I was doing the more hybrid style. I was hinging, and then when I ran out of room, instead of pushing my hips back, squatting down, and it's totally a fine way to do it. It worked for me. But then I hit the 48 early. And I was at my coach's old gym using his pink spray painted 48. That's on purpose. And I got it on my right, didn't get it on my left. And Dave Whitley commented, keep pushing your hips back. He goes, nice work, you got it up, but keep pushing your hips back instead of squatting down. Levi was saying the same thing. And then one day I was in Seattle at a gym I got to train out there when I was up there for work. And I started playing with it with the 40. And then I sent a video to Levi. He goes, exactly. There was just this, just keep hinging. Don't fold down. Just side hinge the entire, what I figured out was just side hinge the entire time. And I got so much stronger with the lift. I got so much more stable with the lift. Just the way.
I never felt stable doing the under squat like that. Because then you kind of have to figure out how to, like, when if you're in that position and you're squatted down, then you have to like half overhead squat out of that position, and that and the stability of it is different, and I just
Well,
never
it moves your
felt,
shoulder.
yeah,
It moves your
and
shoulder when you're
I just
here,
never
and then you have to go
felt,
to here.
I never felt stable in that, so I am very, I mean, you fucking know, you've seen my bed press more than more than the average person. So I really lean into that hinge, which is why we're doing so much goddamn hamstring work. So I can lean into that hinge as deeply as I need to, so I can get back up from that position, because
Yeah.
that's most effective for me. I always feel like it's just I can't. I mean, I can overhead squat. But I don't think I could overhead squat what I can. I know I can't overhead squat what I can bent press. So
Yeah.
I don't want to like add the extra uh stress of trying that on my quads. My hamstrings I think are probably a little bit stronger than my quads. At least my glutes are. I guess it depends on what season of training I'm in. If I'm
Right.
doing
Sure.
a bunch of long cycle, my quads are probably doing good work. Yeah, I just yeah the fine, but like I said, like it works fine for some people. Some people can do that under squat. It works, and that's right. I know Peter Curtis, he does like a little bit of an under squat to stand up with his bent press, and do put up like what 200 pounds
At
like
least or more than that. Yeah, like
yeah, I
when
think
it
it's
gets when it's
200.
getting that heavy, like I've noticed on some of my heavy ones, like 100+ pound ones that I've done, it also depends on my setup. Like I have to pay attention to my setup. If I set up right, I can just pure hinge the whole way. But let's say I didn't perfectly set up, but I can still, I'll drop my hips just a skosh, and it does, it just moves it. Right, it just gets it to there so I can stand up, and that's all I'm trying to do. And I've noticed that with some of the like bigger, heavier bench press dudes, like they'll do that. Like I think it's when you're dealing with that heavy a load, any little
You're gonna adapt differently.
yeah, any little thing you can do that's going to get in the position to stand up, do it. But like
Yeah.
Strong First in their level 2, they teach 3 ways to bench press: side hinge, hybrid, and squat style. Because, and I understand what they're trying to do, but give a coach who's going to be teaching the bench press enough options to teach somebody.
Yeah, which is good.
No, I think that's smart. And then 2 people you should definitely, maybe you already have them on your list, are Aaron Grogan and Holly Myers.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah. Holly and Aaron. Yeah, they're on the list.
Yeah, and they live here in Portland with me. I've trained with them before. Like we're not like great friends, but I know them. They're number one people. They're really,
they seem
really
fabulous.
They are.
Super nice and knowledgeable and cool. I haven't really interacted with them too much. I did message them when I was trying to figure out how to strap bells together. When I did the 48, when I did it at home, because I couldn't go to the gym and I had to figure it out here. It was a mess. And I think it was like an ankle strap for a resistance band, and I strapped the 12 to like a 26 or something to make it. I don't know. It was a mess. It was a lot of weights attached to other weights. I don't remember the math.
Like
it was ugly. But I got it up.
It was a day. It was a day. Yeah, I remember that. It was a day. But it's like those are the things you got to do. Like I have a home gym. I have to get creative sometimes. Now I have enough equipment that I don't have to get that creative. Your home setup's a lot different.
It's mostly kettlebells.
Well, you're also in temporary housing. You're, you could get a small power rack in there, but again, temporary housing. Like your situation's a lot. I own my home. Like when I put up my pull-up rig in the drywall, I didn't care because it's my home. I own the place.
Yeah, I don't think the Army would be super down with me rigging things. Also, it's I train upstairs. My gym is right up there. So I don't, if I drop things, it is dramatic sounding. Because I've dropped things like, and like I obviously try very hard not to. But I can't imagine like trying to bail out of like a barbell bench press in that space. It would be very scary. I don't know that I could do it. I mean, I'm hoping in the next place, wherever they send us. No, I don't know yet. They everyone asks. I've got my mother-in-law messaged me yesterday.
You won't know until like the day before he has to ship out.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I'm assuming they're going to be like, just start driving whichever direction, and we'll tell you if you head in the right direction, and that's that. But I'm hoping wherever they put us next, that at least it's all like single story, or I have a space on the lower floor, so when I do drop it, it's not rattling my entire house, because I dropped when I was doing those fucking tall kneeling bench presses with the kettlebell. I did with the 28. For like however many stupid reps. It was like 6 reps max or whatever. And I
those are fun days.
I dropped it and it was so loud. My husband like ran upstairs. He thought like I dropped, like I dropped. Like that's how loud it was. So I was like, no, just me doing stupid shit. Sorry that you're home today to hear the shenanigans that are going on. Usually nobody's here, so I can get away with doing stupid things in the privacy of this home. Yeah. So it's a tricky situation here. Wherever, I mean, and that's why I started going into the gym as well too, because I ran out of the bells that I needed for here, as you know.
And then having a barbell.
Yeah, and dumbbells and stuff. How different are your setups between like kettlebells and barbells? Because my setups are so different, and they feel like different lifts. So how do you?
Hold on. They are night and day.
Yeah,
I'll tell you how. Like what I was getting to is how I got into barbell bench pressing. Because that was something like once I'd figured out that like pure side hinge and things started moving really well for me with the bench press, I went from the 40 to the 48 really quickly. Right. And then like this famous moment, like on the strong, well, for me, not famous for other people, but famous for me, on like the strong first page, not the instructor's page, because I'm not an instructor, but on like their regular page. And I was buddies, not anymore, with Master SFG Mark Rifkind. Politics got in the way of our friendship. He let that happen, not me. For the record, I would still have been friends with him despite our disagreement. Anyways, I was at the gym in Seattle, Fuel House, really cool gym. Molly, who runs it, Molly Scott, she's awesome. Jeff Sokol coaches out of there. It's a cool spot for kettlebells in Seattle. And she was teaching a class, and it was like in the evening, and I was getting ready to go meet Ridge Carpenter. You know who that is, right? He's actually coming to visit next weekend.
We have the same birthday.
Oh.
We're birthday twins.
Oh, wow. And I don't think and he's not a lot older than you. I think he's like just a few years older than you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that we have the same birthday.
When is that, by the way?
July 24th. It was a few weeks ago.
Oh, well, happy belated. I think I sent him a text. I said, I think I texted him when I text a lot of people on their birthdays, happy anniversary of your escape from the womb.
Yeah.
And then also, you magnificent son of a bitch. I mean, he's
perfect. That's
he's one of my
perfect birthday text.
He's like one of my favorite people, but I was supposed to, he and I were meeting for like lunch or dinner and beers afterwards. So I'm there, and Molly's like, go ahead in that corner. Are you here bench pressing today? Like, that was just become known as that guy, as the bench press guy. I said, yeah, I'm going to hit the beast today. She goes, what? Let me know. I'll make sure that everybody in the gym's watching you. I'm like, no the fuck you will. It happened. But so I started warming up. I started doing the warm-up sets. And what I noticed was, because this leads into why I stopped kettlebells altogether for a long time and just went to the barbell. She has like nice equipment. Her gym is full of all legit good equipment. She spent the money. It's got the Rogue stuff. It's good equipment. So all her kettlebells are Rogue, which I'm more or less a fan of Rogue kettlebells, but they changed them. She had like a newer set than the ones I have. And so the handle was much bigger, deeper. So it was much farther down my forearm. Now, granted, I hate the RKC bells because the bell's like right there in my wrist, even with a heavy belt. It sucks. There's a sweet spot for me. And again, that's the issue I find with kettlebells.
Like here. it's like right like a little bit below the wrist, but like not deep on the forearm. But that's the problem with kettlebells. Like you're saying, like it's so much pressure in such a like this is not a strong
no, the ulna right here. No, it's not. It's separate. Like so, but hers were longer, so they were further down. I was able to bench press them, and I got 3 singles with the 48. That was like awesome. Oh my god. And she was there. She was like, oh my god, I've never seen anybody do that with the 48 in this gym. You know, like it was this thing. Because I'm more like average dude doing something strong as opposed to strength professional or something like that.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden my forearms just started fucking killing me. I couldn't do anything with a kettlebell. Even like a 16 was like, oh.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
So basically that 48 hit me in a way and inflamed some shit. And it was a while. Like I wasn't doing anything but kettlebell swings. It's the only thing I could do with a kettlebell. No snatches, no cleans, no presses, no get-ups, no bent presses. So I had to learn how to barbell.
Yeah.
Started with barbell get-ups just to get an idea of it. Those were challenging because I was doing get-ups. I was doing get-ups with the beast, like my 48, which fits perfect. It's Kettlebell USA 48 fits perfectly for me. I love that one. Go Kettlebell USA. Anyway, but I heard they're kind of jerks, but whatever. I like that kettlebell a lot. The coating on it, I just love everything about it. But like I could do get-ups with the beast, like not all day long, but I could do sets and reps. Like it was something I could do. First time I take out a barbell for a get-up, I got to 90 pounds and bailed. I eventually got it. I just had to get more stable, like in each position, just focus a little harder. But it was humbling. The barbell was like, okay, well, 85 apparently is my working weight for heavy get-ups. I guess we'll just start with 65 pounds. And then I tried to bench press like a 65-pound bar, right?
Yeah.
And I have them. They're on Instagram. They are fucking awful. They are god awful. They're ugly. I had such a process. I was happy and jealous of you for how quickly you adapted to the barbell. Like, hats off to you. Let's give you 2 thumbs up and then a big one of these because it took me forever.
That's a high compliment. 2 thumbs up and a flip off and a middle finger. That's good. That's great for me.
No, it's 2 thumbs up because it's hard. It's a hard transition. And I showed how hard it was, and you show how easy it was for you.
I mean, at very light weights. Because I was using light weights. And I also had feedback from you to help.
That's true.
With that process.
True.
And
I think I gave you every tip.
I had feedback. Yeah, and I had feedback from Dave Whitley. He messaged me and gave me stuff on my setup. And I mean, like, I have like 5 people who are allowed to comment on my technique and give me feedback on my form. And I think I had all of those people giving me feedback. Peter Curtis as well. Like I had a lot of help. Who people being like, wait, try this and like shift this way and so I got I had a lot of good feedback, and then I had a lot of, I think, just like luck in like figuring it out. Like I figured out how to step into it rightly, and I was like, all right, cool, that's how we're doing it. And then it's shifted over the past year or so of that doing barbell, a little over a year now, of doing barbell, that I think I've gotten it to be pretty. My setup was such a fucking nightmare for such a long time, of like how I can tight enough that like I don't fatigue myself just in the setup, because that was the biggest issue when I started the barbell, was my setup was taking 30 minutes. But actually,
I know.
Like it was taking so long to just get into the right position that I was too, like, by the time I got into like the pocket, I was fried. Like I couldn't move the bar because I was so tired. So figuring it out Dave Whitley was like a big help on that. He sent me videos on his setup and stuff, and I took what he gave, and I kind of like figured it out for myself, and like adapted it, because he's a big dude and I'm me. So the way
He's
that
a
I'm
large
gonna do it's
human.
different.
He's not like a particularly tall human, but he is a thick human.
He's
Dense.
just a thick, yeah. He's strong. He's obviously super strong.
Yeah.
He does, the odd lift strong people things.
Oh, the tearing of the cards, the nails, the
Yeah.
bending of the frying pans, and
So
he'll like
between
he goes on like on local news channels and will like hold up
tear deck
somebody.
cards.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious. Like
So-
it's good. Happy for him. Like, go for that,
It's
man.
great.
Do it.
So between all of that, I think I lucked out on getting so much good feedback from people who know what they're talking about. So I was able to take all of that and be like, all right, let's adapt. Like I like wrist wraps. Like I probably wouldn't have ever thought of wrist wraps. And that was such a big game changer, because for sport and for kettlebells, you don't use equipment like that.
No.
So like coming from a kettlebell and a kettlebell sport background, which is most of my strength training, outside of like squats and whatever, I don't have any of that. So I had like Peter Curtis being like, I swear to God, if you get a wrist wrap, that's going to add weight to your bent press.
I'm like
that.
when I get back to training and I get back to barbell bent pressing, it will happen someday. Like I'm getting through some injuries and some time stuff, and I'm going to start. I haven't trained in a year. Life injuries, things have gotten away. It happens. It happens to everybody at some point.
Training's a cycle. Life's a cycle. It's got to,
I'm getting, but I don't want to give up on it. I'm 45 years old. I need to train as much as anybody does, because I need to set myself up for 55, 65, 75.
Yeah.
I'm getting old enough now where I need to start looking to my later years and how I can set myself up to have a better physical quality of life.
Yeah.
And I think the bent press is something anybody can take into pretty deep into your years, because what's like the hardest part of learning the lift in the beginning is the mobility. Because once you have that mobility, you have some good mobility. You have good like thoracic mobility, you have good hip mobility.
And shoulder mobility.
And shoulder, yeah. Oh, and your shoulders are going through all like everything to do lift.
And those are the things that people hurt a lot as they age, shoulders and hips. Those are the injuries that people get. So yeah, I mean,
I'm living proof of that.
Yeah, I'll be bent pressing super heavy, but I will be bent pressing. Like,
oh well, and heavy is always relative.
Yeah.
So when I switched to the barbell, I did hire Levi for a session, because he's done like 195-pound barbell bent presses back when he was focused on the lift. And he was doing like, I think his get up PR is 205 pounds of the barbell.
Brad.
My best is 125 with a barbell, which I feel pretty good about, but that's a different level.
I don't know what mine is. I think my get up in general max is 36, maybe 36. I don't think I tried anything heavier than that, because when I did have access to a 40K kettlebell, I was bent pressing, and I wasn't gonna max out on Turkish get ups while I was trying to bent press.
No. But I forgot which way it was. I think if I can bent press it, I can get up with it, is kind of what I've come to. But I've also done, but it's also, to be fair, I have done so many get-ups. I have done thousands of heavy get-ups. Like when I was working on getting simple and sinister, like getting the swings and the get-ups of the 48. I was really, for a good almost year there, I was working on that. And that was like mixing in with bent presses and other things, but the focus was get-ups. Like I was doing sessions of 5 sets of 10 with the 40.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And taking over an hour to do it. Like so many get-ups. I think that might have given me a good foundation for like heavy bent presses, like getting my shoulder like my shoulder just having all that stability from doing, like there was one point where I was doing beast get-ups. I'd done 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 with the beast.
An insane amount of.
It was dumb. Okay, it was not smart. It was dumb.
Yeah, that's everyone has to go through their dumb training phase. So.
And I weighed about 202. I weighed about 202 pounds at that point. So I was doing good, like almost not quite 60%, but over 50% of my body weight for volume. I had a goal. Like I wanted to be able to do simple and sinister, where the swings were the hardest thing for me. It was getting that bell height, because I can do 100. I've done 200 single arm swings with the beast in 10 minutes. I have done that, but the bell height was like belly button height. But strong first being the stickler for form that they are, they're going to want that at sternum height. Yeah, and that was just a little bit harder for me. And I can do that with anything else, but doing 100 B swings in 5 minutes, getting it to sternum height was a little challenging. But I wanted to be, when I did the get-ups wouldn't be a thing. So if I could do 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 get-ups in one session, doing the one on the minute for the 10 minutes of sinister, I didn't want that to be the deciding factor. I wanted that to be the easy part. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It makes sense logically, but also not, because that's an insane thing. I know what you were thinking, but also, what were you thinking? So I like get-ups. It's really funny because I've had a couple people who fucking hate get-ups on this podcast. Emilio doesn't like get-ups, and neither does Leighton, KB coach. But
that's their problem.
Well, here's the thing. Like, for
I joke. Like,
it doesn't work for them. Like, it doesn't work for what they're working towards, and that's totally fine.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
But I love a get up, but it's just not. It's not ever a thing that I'm ever focused on. It's always like a side mission. It's a quest versus like a main thing that I'm ever trying to do. Because I don't. It's just, when I'm doing heavy training, it's always bent presses. So I'm never like working to a max at 1 rep max of a Turkish get up for me. Like, that's not like ever anything I'm doing. So it's I if I can get it up, if I can do a get up, I can do a bent press. But if I bent press it, I definitely can't get up. Because I couldn't. It takes the Turkish get up takes so much longer. So stabilizing that weight for that long. I mean, but I love doing get ups with my bent presses, because they just complement each other so well. So
I think what Dave Whitley said, I think what he's quoted as saying, I don't know if I'm saying it verbatim, but I'm paraphrasing it. I think he said the bent press finishes what the get up starts.
Yeah.
That's his way of looking at it. And I like that too. Get-ups was one of the first things I learned on my own with kettlebells. I watched videos, and I've watched people who are really good at them and emulated how they did it. And that's how I've learned how to do them. And so it was one of the lifts that I had success with early in my kettlebell days. It just
a little special place in your heart for it.
Yeah, it was something I was good at, not good at, but I got proficient at quickly. And so I was just able to do them, and I liked them.
Yeah, that's fine. If you like them, do them. That's my thing. Yeah, I think they're great. I mean, I did this week because I was doing the stupid mace bent presses, and I was like, I just need some work, because the mace bent press was work, but it was work in a different way. It was just all wrist fatigue. There was no strength in it for me, because it was super light. So I can bent press 10 pounds all fucking day. I could just be doing that and talking normal for 100 reps, no issue. So I was like, I just need some work. So I was doing Turkish get up with bent presses in it, with the barbell, and I was like, oh, there it is. There's like the work that I needed to do today.
My absolute favorite strength flow, and if I don't have a lot of time and I just need to do just do a warm up and do 5 singles, is grab a kettlebell or a barbell and just do get up to bent press to get down, and just do 5 on each side. Do one, and just like 20 minutes later, you're done. Work. And you did everything.
That's the whole thing.
You just did everything. So like my PR with that, that's, I call it my favorite strength flow, is with a 48.
I did it with that's what I did with the barbell. It was 64 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, like 28. I'm like, I'm sure I could do heavier. I would just have it.
On a play day, like when you're like taking a break or something, try it out. Try to PR that one day.
Yeah.
One day.
I did. I probably need, if I did it with a barbell, I'd need to do it like with some wrist reps to PR it, just to give me that extra stability. I am really excited to see, because I've been doing so much wrist work with this conjugate program, and so many fucking bottoms up bent presses. God damn it.
Oh, they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere.
I know they're not. I hate them so much. I'm so bad at them. It makes me so mad.
I'm glad you're recording this, because a year from now we should do this again, and you're just gonna be like, oh my god, and I just did the bottoms up 36 bent press and it was easy. I'm like,
it's not gonna happen in a
Remember?
year. I'm hoping at the end of this cycle I'll do 20. Which will be at Belfast. Maybe I'll try it with Peter. We'll see. By the time this podcast airs, we'll know whether or not I got it. It's so hard. So like, I'm really interested to see how, because I haven't done any sort of max barbell bent presses since my 50. And I haven't done anything heavier, I think, than 40K, which is, like 80-ish%. So I'm excited to see how that will translate and how much more stable, because that was one of the big things with my barbell bent press, is just stabilizing that weight and not losing it. Because once it goes like this, it's not happening anymore. Or like far back, because that I kept losing it on the back side. On this rack, it kept falling backwards, which is infuriating when I'm doing a bunch of sets at 80% or whatever. So I'm really excited to see when we get there, how it is, which is great, because I should mention, though, we've been talking for over an hour. I've mentioned you in this podcast several times.
I'm so sorry.
I mentioned Dan. This is the Dan that I have mentioned as my mentor for bent pressing a million times, and who I complain to. So it's good that you're on, so everyone can have context for who I'm referencing. Anytime bent press comes up, I am talking about, this is the person I am talking about, because you're the person who gets all of my complaints, and also helps me figure out all of my programming, which is very helpful, because I probably wouldn't have done. You're also the reason I started doing bent pressing the way that I do, because you were bugging me and telling me that I should do it. So
you mean like the way? What do you mean the way you do it?
The way that I'm training it 3 days a week, instead of random, because you messaged me this years ago, and I had just I'm sure it was before that we had touched bases. I did like a 32K bent press at core, and I had you and another Australian, I think it's a guy from Australia, I forgot his name, Cam, I don't know. He was like, you should do a bent press, Turkish get up at that weight or whatever. And then you started messaging me being like, you should do bent presses. And I was like, we'll see. And then COVID happened several years later. And you sent me that first program that I went through. Like that's
right. It was you were looking for a program. Yeah. Well,
I wasn't even sure if I was going to do it, but you were like, here it is. You should just do it. And I was like, I don't know. And that's how I started training, like actually training bent press. Like I was doing bent presses and I liked doing bent presses, but I wasn't training bent presses. I wasn't working on anything. It was just like I was doing sport, and sport was my priority. And that's totally fine. But I wasn't doing bent presses to the capacity that I currently do. It's okay. My dog
Ruby, come here.
Ruby, podcast.
Ruby, come here. Ruby, come here. Come here.
Oh, she heard myself. Heard me talk about her. But yeah, so most of my bent press stuff is probably your fault, because you're the one who started sending me stuff and just being like, you should just try it. It's only one time a week. And then all of a sudden I was doing a 2-day-a-week program. And now I'm doing 3 days a week of dedicated bent press work. So it's your fault. Because I don't think I would have done it had you not just been like, it's only once a week.
I don't feel bad about that at all, because I've gotten to see you bent press a 50 kg kettlebell and a 50 kg barbell. So
I'm real close on the dumbbell too.
And real close on the dumbbell. I don't feel bad about that. I think my whole point
it's great. And I'm having so much fun doing it too. So like, I mean, most of the time, sometimes I'm not having fun, and then I complain a lot.
That's called type 2 fun. That's called type 2 fun. I think my whole point with that back then was like, you're a GS person. GS is great, strength endurance, watching like GS people, like the top GS people is just beyond impressive what they can do. It's a different type of strength. And you were dipping your toe into top end strength. You were dipping in. I think my suggestion was, well, make this the thing you do for top end strength, instead of like deadlift, squatting, bench pressing, like getting like completely changing what you do. GS is taxing your energy system in one way. Bench pressing is taxing your energy system in a different way. Make that the one thing you do, and you've taken to it like a duck to water.
Yeah, I there's just something about it that works really well for me. If you hear it squeaks, it's my dog on my end.
It's Delilah.
Yeah, it's Delilah. She got her hands on a toy. She heard me say dog, and she was like, "Oh, I'm up. Let's go." Yeah,
I'm a dog.
Let's party. But it just feels right for me. I don't love a lot of max effort lifts, and like it doesn't benefit a lot of the things that I was doing or currently do. So it's fun to have a thing where I can just do, and also like it's fun to be good at stuff. Like I like being good at things.
It is fun to be good at stuff.
It's fun to be good at things. So like you can find that thing that you're good at and you can just do that shit. That's awesome. So like I stumbled into and got a little bit finessed into doing a thing that's weird. Like there's not that many people who bent press and like who are bent pressing well even. So it's cool that I stumbled into it, and then also stumbled into a really cool person who has supported and pushed me to continue doing that. And I like being good at things, and I like winning. And so I can kind of win at bent pressing. So
well, let's see. You played college soccer, right?
Yeah, I played through my sophomore year of college.
Yeah, but it means you were good enough to play college soccer. That means you were good, you were competitive, you were an athlete. You're used to so I played all the sports growing up. I was actually best at basketball, but I stopped growing. A barely 6'2" power forward doesn't translate.
Yeah.
There's not top level 6'2" power forward. No, that's just not a thing. So I stopped growing. So golf became the thing I took, but I'm like you. I like to be good at something. Winning is fun. I have like an overly competitive personality, so I have to manage how I compete with things.
I'm just so competitive.
I have a temper. That's the problem. Is I have a temper
too.
What?
Was that's part of how I got into kettlebells too, was I was super competitive and I had to stop playing soccer because I've had concussions, and
Okay.
I played goalie, so I got knocked around a lot. Like I got kicked in the face, I got, like black eye, like I got fucked up a lot. And I had a girl on my team get knocked out in front of me who had one more concussion than I had. And we had to go in a hospital parking lot and wait for hours to like hope that she would be okay. And I was like, I do not want this. And that was also right around the time, it was like what, 2012, 2013. It was right around the time where there was like lots of things coming out about concussions. And I was
Right.
like, 20 years old. And
TBI, like all the issues with TBI. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was 20, and I had offers because I was playing at a city college, and I had offers to keep playing, and I was just like, I don't think that is going to be smart for me in the long run.
No.
So I stopped, and I didn't really do anything. Like I was still like semi-active. When I was Humboldt, I walked to school and I coached. I taught swim lessons and things, but I wasn't super active, and I missed like fighting for a thing. I missed that fight and that grind, and so that's how I stumbled into sport. I found kettlebells, and when I did my Instagram follow, when I started doing that, I ended up following a bunch of fucking kettlebell sport people. So I stumbled into that too, and like that's how I started doing kettlebell sport. Was like, oh, I can do this, and if I get a concussion from kettlebell sport, something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
So I typically don't. You don't really get kettlebell sport concussions. You get injuries, but not concussions, and I didn't want to deal with any more of that. So I just stumble forward into things. And it works out. Sometimes it works out. And it has for sport, and it has for bent pressing. And it's just such a fun lift to do most of the time.
It's even when it's frustrating, it's fun. It's like, I wish I had videos. I might have one out there, but I think it was more like just fuck this shit. So no. But when I was learning the barbell, it's always good for somebody to get humbled, especially like I'd gotten pretty far pretty fast with the bench press in terms of getting to the beast. Yeah. Right. But as my coach at the time, who's still my coach, Brandon, was saying, okay, that's amazing. Like you're doing a heavier bench press than most guys ever will. He goes, what? He goes, it's just a stop on the road. He goes, I don't like how people think of certain numbers as like the ultimate. He goes, the ultimate is not until you just like, you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Just look at that as like an awesome milestone on your journey. I'm like, okay. And so getting ready to do the next thing. And I had to switch the barbell because of my forearm. Mm-hmm. And there are so many sessions in my old gym, my neighborhood gym, that's still there. I just like having my garage. Where I'm just throwing the bar, like I'm like failing. I'm there, like, fuck you, boom. Or like just tossing the bar all over the place. It's just being.
Those days.
What's that?
But I know those days. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know those days too, because I tell you about them every time they happen.
What's funny, nobody was really coaching me on the barbell. That was really a lot of me figuring it out on my own. So my coach has gotten plenty. We could look through the text thread. We could just pull this out and look through the text thread of me going, like, for me, it was strict pressing. Strict pressing is my absolute nemesis. I have long arms.
I'm so bad at them.
Well,
maybe that's why we like bench pressing. Because
the
thing with strict pressing is as soon as it gets hard, I want to bench press it. So like my body, I will start like with like 24, which I've gotten like once or twice. But as soon as it gets here, I'm just like, oh, we're just, and then it's really easy. But my body does not want to strict press. It never wants to strict press because I just want to just, oh, here we go. Now we're bench pressing.
So my coach says the strict press, whether with a kettlebell or you're doing a javelin press or you're doing actual barbell bench press, presses, he goes, that's like the hardest lift to get good at. Mm-hmm. Because your shoulder capsule or your shoulder girdle, whatever you want to call it, is the weakest like joint in your body because it has the most range of motion.
Yeah.
So it's the weakest. So the most can go wrong, and it's the hardest to get stronger just because you're dealing with your weakest joint. Bench pressing, the joint is just there, right? Your body is doing the whole thing. For me, like, what do I feel the most when I bench press? It's my like loaded glute and my lat. That's what I'm feeling. And the cue I use these days, or I used towards the end when I was still bench pressing, the one that was kind of a game changer cue just for me and how I can initiate the move with the barbell, especially with the barbell. Because the thing I learned about the barbell is the kettlebell pulls you, especially when it's heavy enough, will pull you into that side rack. You know, like you say in the pocket or in your back pocket, I always think of the cue elbow between your butt cheeks, because you could go butt cheeks, butt cheeks. So once I feel my elbow between my butt cheeks, the way I start the lift is I squeeze, and then I'm pushing my hip out, but I'm feeling my arm peel off my lat. Mm-hmm. And that like helps me keep that smooth, like hip push, like side hinge. And as it comes off, I'm just feeling my arm peeling off my lat, and like my lat's just super tense and my arm's just coming off of it, you know. Mm-hmm. That was a cue that helped me with the barbell.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where now I feel very comfortable barbell pressing it still sucks. It's still harder. The kettlebell is the easiest thing to bench press. If anybody's learning to bench press, always learn with the kettlebell because it's the most forgiving.
Yeah.
It's the most forgiving because it'll help you get to that position. And that was the thing that I wasn't doing right. That's what took me so long. And it's still on my left side with a barbell bench press. It's a different lift than my right. Because my right is because more stable side, I'm right-handed, that's just always better. I can, with now knowing what to do, I can get it in that position with the barbell. And I also have to make sure the bar is as close to parallel with my shoulders as possible. Because if it's like perpendicular, it's a much harder thing for me to move with. Yeah. So like your whole thing about it takes forever to get in the setup and that can really fatigue you quickly. Like I feel that so much. I started using just the rack in my garage, just pull it off the rack, and then just because like what they say with kettlebell bench pressing is don't worry about the clean, just two-hand clean it. The clean is not the purpose of what you're doing. Yeah. The purpose is just to get it so you can bench press. Dave Whitley even said that. You know, don't worry about the clean, just two-hand clean it up. Just that's
what I was doing. And then it's really easy to push it into this, and then you just release as you and then push it back,
and you go,
and it's easy. But the barbell is so much less forgiving. You don't get to do that.
Well, the way I describe it,
I've never tried it off of a rack though. Like I've just never done it off of a rack because anytime
try it once, like in warm-ups, just because you don't like. I'll pick it up like this. But as I'm coming off the rack, I'm immediately going into the side rack.
Yeah.
So as I'm getting my feet set,
I know that's how Peter Curtis does it as well.
I got the idea from him because once I was in my garage. I mean, I could have done that in my old neighborhood gym if I wanted to, but my garage is not a big garage. It's not a big suburban house. It's a townhome garage. It's narrow. Yeah. I only have so much room to do things. When I barbell bench press in the garage, I have to be in a very certain place for my right side, and I have to be in a very certain place for my left side so the bar doesn't hit anything. And if I have to bail, I'm not destroying half the garage because I've done that. There are a couple of
gym problems.
And thankfully I own the house. There are a couple of gashes in the drywall from barbell bench press fails, but now I've figured out where in the garage, like where to set up exactly. Like it's weird. If you ever visited, I would show you. It's like exact angles. Like my feet have to be. I know exactly where on the floor my feet have to be. It's a certain spot, and the bar has to be at a certain angle so I don't hit the power rack and I don't hit the door. And like when I go to my left side, it has to be over here. It's not a perfect thing, but but like. So the kettlebell wants to, this is like a saying I have, is the kettlebell is friendly. It wants you to bench press it. So it happily helps you get into position. Barbell gives zero fucks about you, your life, your stress, your trauma, your issues. The barbell doesn't think about you. So the barbell just wants to do what the barbell is going to do. And when you're one-handing a barbell, that's not what it's meant for.
No.
Right?
No.
It's not meant. It's meant to be held with
You're
two
supposed
hands.
to have two hands on a barbell. We're doing shenanigans.
And the center knurl, which is so important, like you have to have a power bar if you're going to barbell by press. A Oli bar is a terrible thing because there's no center knurl. I've dealt with that. And I used to think, oh, the center knurl is for the one-handed work, right? Because that's what I use the center knurl for. It's for your neck. It's for power lifters to get a grip. I've also like low bar back squat, and I've gotten under my Texas power bar. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why that's there.
Yeah, so yeah, it's not for us to do the weird shit that we're doing. Do you do
It is in my mind.
bent presses at all? I mean,
I have at a gym, like traveling at a gym with no access to. They yelled at me for taking the barbell off the bench press. There was this gym in Long Island. My brother-in-law has a really nice fancy beach house out there. And I went to the bro gym. It's the only gym in that area, and a total fucking bro gym. Total get your pump on, Jersey Shore. Like, oh my God, I felt like such an interloper in there. No, not this. No. The bro curl is the that little hitch they do. That little hitch they do. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? That doesn't do anything. Anyways, so I'm in that gym, and so like the only barbells were on the bench press, on the benches. Like you were squatting in a Smith machine. There was no place to deadlift because what the fuck do you deadlift? You don't get jacked from deadlifting. Actually, let me show you some let me show you some legit power lifters, and you tell me if they're not yoked or not. I'm sorry they don't have their symmetry or their V taper isn't great, but those motherfuckers are yoked. But no, so all I had access to do was dumbbells. And so I started warming up. People are just looking at me because I'm lying on the ground. Like I'm doing arm bars on the ground. I'm doing my get up to windmill to bent press warm up thing that I like to do, that I warm up for bent presses with, is it takes you through everything. And people are just like staring at me. And somebody from the gym, like that worked at the gym, he goes, "Hey man, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'm doing my thing. Okay, look, I'm out of the way. I'm just doing my thing." He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Do you even want me to explain it to you?" He goes, "No." I said, "Look, I'm not going to hurt anybody." He goes, "All right, I guess it's okay." I'm like, "Thanks."
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did get up to bent press flow and I got up to, this is years ago, so I hadn't hit like my 56 kg PR yet, I don't think. And I did the get up to bent press flow with 75 pounds, and it's hard with a dumbbell.
It's it feels weird. It's harder to get into that position that I like because of the plates. I don't know what they call them. I very rarely use dumbbells for anything. Yeah, the edges. Because like with a kettlebell, it's perfect. You just pop it back there. With a barbell, it's long enough that those aren't interfering with where I put my body. But with a dumbbell, it's there. So that was like when I was like, I could probably get 110 pounds up, 50K, but I couldn't figure out the setup to get it in the right position to get it there.
You're gonna have to get it up here and then over here.
And then that's. But it's just like it's such a weird, because there's those little fucking things in my way. So it's a weird one.
You know what's hard to bench press, and I've done it with the 48, is a fat bell.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. You've done all sorts of weird shit. So I don't have anything with a fat, like the fat grips. I don't have any of those.
No, a fat bell. It's the ball where the handle's inside the ball.
Oh, yeah.
The Donnie Thompson fat bells, like as an alternative to a dumbbell, or what's that?
That'd be fun.
They're hard when you get. You totally could, and if you can get access to fat bells, you totally should. Just what I say is hard about them is that it's a ball that your hand's inside. So when you rack it, the first time I racked it, I was like out here. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this thing, and then I had to. And it was kind of like hitting my arms a little bit. It wasn't that bad. Like I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. But they're hard. Like I'd almost say dumbbell or fat bells are a little bit harder because like in terms of stabilizing, in terms of where the weight is and how it helps you stabilize. So if you ever go to a place and you have access to fat bells, don't stop, don't pass go, just go and try to bench press those.
I mean, I try to bench press everything. I tried to bench press a log. It's not gone well, but I tried to.
I haven't done that. I've seen Pete do that. I've seen Pete bench press logs, like driftwood logs. And
like the log press.
Oh, how do you even
That was the problem. That's the problem. I'm thinking though, with all the waiters press shit that I'm doing, that maybe I'll be able to do it at some point. I tried it because me and Peter Curtis, we were talking about it, and how stupid it would be to try it. And then I was like, well, obviously I'm going to try it. So I tried it, and it just kept rolling off because of it doesn't. The grips are on other parts. If they added a handle in the middle, I could do it, but you have to palm it because there's no.
And also, I think hand size would probably.
Yeah,
like a big hand.
My little hands aren't gonna do it. But I think
large hands, but
the stability with the waiter stuff that I've been doing will help. But I'd have to find probably a slightly lighter one just to like at least get that first rep before, so I could figure out what it feels like. But it is what it is.
Just chalk that up to
another side quest. Like it's not like a mainline mission. It's like I'll see if I can get along to it at some point. Like a fat belt. Like it's not like a thing I'm gonna like train on, but it's something I'm like, well, it'd be kind of cool if I could do that. That's how I do everything.
Yeah, well, it's like the thing about training is having all the nice equipment is great, but a lot of the old-time strong men, strong women, strong people, and even people in between them, like that don't have access to all the nicest rogue equipment. You make do with what you have. And like when I was getting my garage gym set up, my coach and I were talking, he was sending me videos of some insane garage gym setups. And I'm not talking like a big, huge garage where the guy spent all the money and has all the nice equipment. No. It's a fucking closet similar to mine. Mm-hmm. And they have one power rack and they have all these pulleys, bands, and chains.
So they can do the cable. I've seen those.
Yeah.
They have their cable machine. I know. I want to do one of those one day if I ever get like a actual garage gym. That would be so cool. Like I want a pulley cable system. That would be so rad.
I have that in my gym. It's called the bands. All the bands. Like so much of like my accessory work, my pump accessory work, is just with bands. Like I take 2 green bands and do heavy curls and feel that, bro. And then the pull downs and the tricep pull downs and then like lat pull downs and then face pulls. Yeah, all that stuff with the bands.
And I do a lot of, I've been doing so much more band work with this program because of like the hamstring curls that I've been doing at home, which was a pain in the ass to set up, as you well know. And I've been doing like the lighter bands, like kind of a lat pull down, but it's more just like holding that tension and then pulling down. So that's getting like work, and fucking band pull aparts. But I did a lot of those for sport as well, because that helps strengthen so you can get into the rack position.
Right, sure. Well, band pull aparts are great because like rear delts are often neglected. Yeah. Right. And like rear delt, upper or lower trap, rhomboid, that's all neglected like back muscles that you need for everything, for anything you're going to do, but especially bent pressing. It's like I watched one of those documentaries, and it was either Netflix or I think it was Netflix. I think it was the Rogue, old time strongmen documentary. And I watched the Arthur Saxon one because he's my favorite of the old timers because he had the biggest bent press.
What are you talking about? Arthur Saxon? What is he?
Is he any good? He's actually really cool. You should look into him. Maybe you've heard of him.
Maybe a little bit.
Did you watch that documentary? That Rogue documentary about him?
I don't have Netflix.
What kind of millennial are you?
We had Netflix, and it just wasn't. We use Hulu more. So I just don't. We have Hulu and HBO, or it's Max now, and Dropout.
Max, whatever.
Those are
I
the
mean,
ones.
that's
And Prime, but that's not. I didn't get Prime for the TV, except for I do like the TV on there. I got it for Prime. It's just a nice benefit that I also can watch Good Omens. And The Lord of the Rings.
I read the book when it came out back in the day. That's how old I am. And it was like my favorite book I had read in junior high. It came out when I was in junior high.
Oh wow!
And it was
elderly. I read it in college.
Hold on. I have to check my old man glasses.
I read it in college. My cousin's then boyfriend, he's also my friend, but he was really into Neil Gaiman. So I read the books, and then it was on the series, and then now I have the audiobook, and it's with David Tennant and Michael Sheen. Like, it's got a voice cast. It's very, very good. So,
I love them. I love both of them so much.
The series is great. I need someone to watch the second season because no one I know has watched it, and it's
okay. I'll be that guy. So
it's 6 episodes.
I need to finish the first season just because I know the books. I've read the book like 4 times. I love that book, and I love the casting of David Tennant and Michael Sheen. I thought that was perfect.
David Tennant walks like so. He walks so good, like, and it's such a weird thing to lock in on, but when he walks like Crowley, there's this rhythm to it, and I am obsessed with it. It's so good. I love David Tennant. But the second season is very good. And no one I know has watched it, and
okay, I'll watch it. We can talk about it.
I can't get, and my husband hasn't even seen it yet, so I have no one to talk to about it. And
look, I'll be that friend for you. Don't worry about it, because I love that.
It's 6 episodes. It's very quick.
I
finished it within the week that it came out.
Okay, I'll see if I can binge. I'm not a binger. I'm old, so I watch things like a week at a time.
My husband's gone right now, which I don't usually say about, but he'll be back by the time this episode airs. So, like, I just don't have, I don't have to share my TV time. So
we don't share our TV time at all. My wife is completely addicted to British crime dramas. Like, I got her for her birthday last year. I got her BritBox because like the app, paid for it, $70 for the year. Worth it, because she just she watched, like, I think she watched all of it. She's a binger. Perfect. Right there. She's a binger. Yeah. Like, she binged 7 seasons of Suits in like a week and a half.
It's so funny. My sister today mentioned that she thinks she's going to start watching Suits today.
That's what she does, where I read a lot. Like, I read a lot. That's my thing. I watch certain shows, but I love Good Omens. But have you seen, this is why I love David Tennant and Michael Sheen, as like, they're like best friends. They are like really, really, really good friends.
Yeah, I've seen interviews and things.
Did you see, I think it's on Hulu as well, Staged? It was like based on the pandemic. It was just them doing FaceTime calls with each other, trying to set up a play.
I haven't seen, I don't know that I've seen the whole thing, but I have seen clips. Is that the one where he draws a pineapple in the painting? I've seen clips of it. I have not seen, I didn't know, I thought it was just them fucking around. I didn't know it was an actual thing.
They are fucking around. But the way they go off on each other, when they just get mad at each other and they start insulting each other, that is the best part. Because David Tennant will make fun of Michael Sheen for being Welsh, start making fun of the Welsh language. And then Michael Sheen will just start impersonating David Tennant, because Michael Sheen is like a pure actor and can do all kinds of impersonations. And the way they fuck with each other, I'm just like, I want to hang out with you guys in a pub in London, anywhere in England you want. I want to be drinking beer with you guys. And I just want to lob shit and get you guys going off on each other, because I just want to watch them just insult each other. It would be the best.
Yeah, they're so good. So everyone watch the second season of Good Omens, and
I'll do that. I'll
reach out to me so I can have someone to talk about it with other people. Yeah, it's really good. It's a good show, and I'm glad that they were able to make more of it because it was with Terry Pratchett, and he's not with us anymore.
Yeah.
So
But
also
like Neil Gaiman
Discworld,
is
if you are a reader, Discworld is great. It's Terry Pratchett's like
Discworld.
universe.
Oh, okay.
And there's like a million books, and I've read a bunch of them, and you can just pick any books, but they're like interrelated but not really related. It's just like overlapping characters, or there's like different series within. So I read the whole Death series, so it's the guy who writes Death is in it, and that one's really good. It's got they just re-released a bunch of them, and they're really really excellent. Mort.
I'll check them out. Again, I read.
There's
I read
huge,
a lot.
There's 40 something books in this universe, so it's really nice to have like when I work because I do Audible, like I'm an audio person because
I can't
I
because
love audiobooks.
the voices drive me nuts. It's like
I
read so if it's not a cast, it's always like one person because it's expensive to do the audio, right? So it's not like a voice cast, it's one person. It's usually a dude. And the stuff I read.
The Good Omens one is a full cast, just so you know.
Well, that's different, and there was money behind that, and like, no, but I was doing like on a long road trip, so I downloaded some Audible, and it was this military sci-fi series I was gonna start reading anyways, and so I ended up listening to the whole series on Audible, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And like, what was the story? Well, the story was actually kind of interesting. I like cool, weird sci-fi. I also like hardcore military sci-fi because I grew up watching Aliens. When that dropship comes down, unfurls, and Space Marines, there was more of that story to be told than that movie told. And so I'm constantly looking for series that like not based on that, but I like military sci-fi like that because it's the kid in me who wants to see more of that. So I listened to one of those series, and whenever the voice actor was doing women, I'm like, oh God, please don't do that. Oh, like, no.
Yeah, that is the problem with audiobooks is if the narrator is bad, then it's just not good. But with the Discworld series, the narrator is they have a couple of different voices. So they have Cyan. It's the sister from Fleabag. She's like the main voice, but they have a couple of different. They have a voice actor for Death. So he's very specifically his own voice. But the lady, this is sister from Fleabag. I don't remember her name. She's so good. She's great, and she's got all these, and all the people in the stories are very quirky. And then Bill Nighy is like the footnotes person, which is very fun.
Well, that's like a cast. Like the stuff I read is written by sci-fi authors with not a ton of money, where Terry Pratchett and his estate, like, there's money there. So, and there's people who want to do that.
The right books.
Yes. Like Bill Nighy, they didn't probably have to offer him a lot of money to do that. And what's her name from Fleabag? I'm not quite sure you're talking about. I know the show. I just don't know who you're talking about. But I can picture a lot of the actors in that. You probably didn't have to work too hard to get her to do it because it's Terry Pratchett, right? He's famous.
Yeah.
Whereas the stuff I'm reading is from nobody sci-fi authors that they're like, this cost me $40.
Clifford, by the way, is her name. Cyan Clifford, and then Peter Serafinowicz is the voice of Death. And he's got this good, deep voice for Death. It's really fun. And you don't like, if you're not going to listen to the audiobooks, that's fine. The books themselves are very fun. I don't tend to laugh out loud at books, and I have laughed out loud so much through these books. They're like super heartfelt, but also hilarious. I love them. So I love those ones. And once I finish whatever podcast, I just listen to. I mean, that's why I have these fucking headphones on all the time. I just listen to things all day long. And then every now and then I find a show and I lock on for a few days or weeks or whatever, and then I go back to my audiobooks and my.
So I can't do those headphones. Like, I could probably really benefit from having nicer headphones like you have. The problem is when I train, I'm just a naturally sweaty person. I get sweaty just thinking about training because my body's like, oh, we're going to train. Okay, let's sweat. After a training session, I can't throw my shirt into the hamper because then everything will stink. I have to hang it up because it is soaked through like I was swimming in the ocean. And same thing with everything. It doesn't matter what, I've just always been that person. If I get nervous, I'll get a little sweat. So when I was a teacher, for a bit. The first like week of like student teaching, I was just sweating through things and the kids were laughing at me until I got comfortable. And then I got into teacher mode, basically just telling all those little fuckers to shut the fuck up without saying little fuckers and shut the fuck up. Then I got like teacher attitude, like, wait, you don't get to talk to me that way. Sit the fuck down, you know?
Yeah.
And then that happened, I stopped sweating. But so headphones like that would just get nasty.
Well, I wash them. I do that, but also I replace the pads. My last pair I had for 4 years. And I replaced the pads like every, I don't know, and whenever they needed them, basically. And they're like $10 on Amazon, so that's how I maintain using these for so long. And to the volume that I use them, because I literally have headphones on all day, because I also take phone calls and crap on here, like when I'm doing chores, I'm talking to my family or whatever. But yeah, there's these little pads are replaceable, and then you just replace the pads and the inside thing, and then it's good. Because at a certain point, I basically replace them when they start flaking, so the little part will flake. Once I start getting those first flakes, I just get an order of them on, and new set, and they cost $15 maybe. I don't know. It's not that expensive for a very expensive pair of headphones that I can make last, that I wear 15 hours a day or something stupid. Well, we've been talking for a really long time, so I should probably wrap up the podcast end of this. Since we've wandered off the edge of training and into audiobooks. Where can people find you on the internet, or do you want people to find you on the internet?
If people want to, Instagram's the best place, because like, or Threads, as much as anybody's on Threads. Instagram, Dan Pereyo, Pereyo. I mean, my content these days is not much. It's wine, because I sell wine now. When I get back to training, I will do it'll be me doing like simple and sinister with like a 20 kg kettlebell, because I have not done anything in a year. So I'm just going to get back to easy movement. Just move. Like not worried about how much of something I can do, or how much of it I can lift. It's more like 20 kg kettlebell is at my size, at a over 6 foot tall, 200 pound male. 20 kgs is not a high percentage of anything. So I'll just do the swings and see how the swings feel. If they feel like, if my conditioning's off, I'll adapt, I'll adjust, I'll cut it short. I'll do just see where I'm at, spend like 2-3 months getting back into moving, and get my body and my CNS remembering that I can do things. And then what I think I'll do is either Royal, Simple, and Sinister, because somebody who had the program sent me the program, and I can send it to you as well. You know what that one is?
No.
So Pavel Macek, the Czech strong first guy who looks like Pavel Tsatsouline, but he's not. He's an avid bench presser. He's an avid like old time strength enthusiast guy. He did a whole little thing on the dumbbell swing, which I want to play around with, because that just looks like fun.
Beth does that.
What's that?
Beth was doing that.
Yeah. He's the one that kind of came up with it. It's an old lift that he resurrected and created a program, but he created the Royal Simple and Sinister program. So it snatches and bench presses.
Okay. I know who he is. I know who Pavel is. I had a video get shared, and people were talking a lot of shit, and somebody tagged him in it, and he was like, she's fine, right? like somebody like had worked with him and was like, look at this is stupid, and he tagged their coach, which happens, and then he was like, no, she's just fine, she's just doing sport. That he said something like, oh, the sister to hardstyle or whatever, the sibling to hardstyle, like what, like beautiful. And I was like, motherfucker, I got you. I love it when people tag their coaches and like, well, my coach doesn't do it like that. I was like, yeah, your coach does a different style. Yeah, so I followed him after that, because I was like, thanks, man.
The whole war between like hard style and sport is just stupid. And
they're
it's often
compliments to each other.
they're different. Sport is, here's the thing, here's like the big idea. Kettlebell sport is a ... sport. All the training is to compete. It's sport specific. Your training is sport specific, and you're training to do a thing.
Based training.
It's strength endurance. You're training to do one of two things for 10 minutes, either snatching for 10 minutes or clean and jerking for 10 minutes, long cycle.
Or jerking.
It's a sport. Or just, that's right, there's variations within that. But in general, like just basic GS is those two things. I know there's pentathlon, there's this, there's that. There's more, it's a deeper world.
Basically, we're training to do a lift for 10 minutes straight. That's all it is. People like to overcomplicate it, but it is truly, you're doing one lift for 10 minutes straight. So you have to do it very, very efficiently, or you won't be able to do it. And hard styles power. And and that's
it's
cool.
Strength. It's top end strength. It's conditioning in a different way, and it's more for Gen Pop. It's for anybody can get a hand on a kettlebell, learn to swing, learn to clean, learn to press, learn to goblet squat, learn to get up, and you can do a lot of things for a long time and get strong and move well. And that's for Gen Pop. That's for just anybody to learn sport. Like I think I would suck at sport because, like, when you're in your rack position, like when everybody's in their rack position, I see their elbows on their hips.
Yeah.
My torso is way too long. I do have long arms. I do have a long wingspan, but in compared to my torso, my elbows are on my ribs. So getting that drive from the hip
you have to get a belt, probably. That would be helpful. So that way you shove up all your guts, so that way you have a higher shelf to rest your elbows in.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the trick with the belt. Everyone, it's not back protection. It's to get your shelf of your guts, so you can just drive your elbows into your
okay.
your
let me ask
stomach.
Let me ask you a GS question that I have never asked but thought about. What is the point of the Olympic lifting shoes? Because Olympic lifting shoes and Olympic lifting is to create an easier path for you to grab the bar in order to, clean it or snatch it. You're never putting anything down in GS. You're here the whole time. Mm-hmm. What is the point of the Oli shoes? I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't know why.
For snatch, I don't think they're necessary at all. And I've never done a snatch set in the Ollie shoes. I've only seen people do snatch sets in Ollie shoes if they are too lazy to change their shoes.
They're what?
It was more too lazy to change their shoes. My friend Dan used to do that, but he would be training jerks and snatch, and he'd be like, I'm not fucking sitting down in shoes right now. Like, I don't want to.
Is that Dan Bechter?
Yeah.
He's cool.
He's great. He was one of my first coaches for kettlebells in sport. Really, really great person to have as your first coach. I fucking lucky that I stumbled into core and really excellent coaches. Anyways, for long cycle, for me personally, I don't feel that much of a difference. Like, I just don't feel that much of a difference. And I know some people do. And I think in theory it is because you're lifting your heels, you can tuck your hips more efficiently. Just create a little bit more of that fulcrum, because it's a weird position. And you do jerks for with Ollie lifting. But like I said, for me, I've not ever found it to be that much of a difference, which I might be a hot take.
I was just curious. Curious.
I just personally and like I said, maybe for me, and I'm also I'm not a long cycler. I do it because I'm supposed to. I'm a snatcher, so for snatch I can do that shit barefoot. Not for a sport comp, obviously, because you're not allowed to. But I can. And so I prefer my flats as long as it's hard and solid. That's the main deal for me. But there's obviously some sort of benefit to it, or Dennis wouldn't be doing it.
Or what's his face in Oklahoma?
Also with the under squat as well, because your heels are always raised in that under squat. Which is helpful for any sort of squat.
Okay. So you're talking about Denis Vasiliev?
Yeah.
That guy's a machine.
He's not human. He's amazing.
Well, you look at his training. What I like about watching him, you look at his training. I mean, he'll demonstrate all his sports stuff, but he shows so much about all the other work he does to benefit. Like he's like lean but cut but muscular. Like he's like a skinny guy that's put on some nice little mass to himself, and then he's just an animal when he gets on the platform. Because he's not Ivan Denisov.
So
he's not like Ivan.
Fucking cool to watch lift. His technique is so fluid and efficient. It is so freaking cool. Yeah, like Ivan Denisov, whatever. He's
a monster. He's
a
gigantic. Like Levi met him at the Arnold in Columbus, and he stood next to him. He took a picture and sent it to me. And Levi is about my height. He's about 6'1"-ish, maybe 6'2". Like we stood next to each other. We're like even height, but he's thick. Like he's muscular. He's like 3D thick. Like he's a large human when you stand next to him. Yeah, I'm not a small human.
Enormous.
Yeah, I'm not a small human, and I feel small next to him. And he looks small next to Ivan Denisov. Now, so he's just a monster. You don't listen to what he has to say if you can translate it, because he's a world champion. The guy I respect, like in terms of coaching Dennis more, because he's somebody who has to work really hard to be as good as he is. And he's one of the best, but he has to work really hard, where Ivan just has to show up and get the work in, and he's the best. Because
he's
like a big
dude. Well, it's also weight classes as well, so I don't know that Dennis and even whatever.
No, they wouldn't compete against.
We're not competing against each other, so there's that's a part of it too. But that's what, like, because I had a client, like, when I was coaching him, and he sent me like some of his videos, and I was like, you are not that big. Your technique is not going to look like that. like you are probably at minimum 50 pounds lighter than this man, probably 75 to 80 pounds lighter than this man. Your technique is going to look very different because his backswing is really short, because he doesn't have to get that deep into it because he's a huge man, versus like what my technique is, where I'm in my backswing, I'm in my backswing, but he doesn't have to do that because of his he's a giant bear man.
Yeah, he's got some advantages. Or that other Russian guy who wins all the stuff now, Ivan Markov, who's a younger guy, like he's like in his 20s.
Maybe you just have to be named Ivan, and then
be Russian. Well, they invented the whole thing. Yeah, like the sport thing, they definitely invented. So
yeah, they did. But yeah, well, I think you've won my longest episode. So congratulations. I mean, we could keep going, but I'll probably wrap this part up so we can so nobody's looking at the podcast recording going 2 hours. And then we'll have something to talk about next time I make you come on and talk to me. But that'll be this episode. Thank you for coming on and chatting with me about all the bench pressing. And find him on Instagram at Dan Pereyo. I don't think Pereyo. I've never said your name out loud.
Nobody ever says it right the first time. The first day of school,
And that was my episode with Dan. I hope you all enjoyed listening to that as much as we enjoyed having that conversation. You can find him on Instagram at Dan Pereyo, linked in the show notes. And that's really all I have for this week on the wrap up. If you came to Belfast, I really, really appreciated seeing everyone there. And thank you so much for supporting that event. It was really cool, and I can't wait for the next one, and that's all I've got. So I will let y'all go, and I will see you in a couple weeks.